Hey, what's up guys? So just a quick but important follow-up video regarding the new Max360's firmware update 1.3 or 1.6. I did a video about it recently talking about how the BSM filtering is definitely improved over what we saw before, and there's been some changes to performance, especially in auto mode. We're seeing the performance is pretty bad in auto mode in terms of long-range performance, but much better in highway mode. Now, that was basically the initial impressions, right? Everybody's reporting, awesome, the new filtering is out, or it's a lot better, right? Performance, cool, we're getting an idea of that, but the more people have had a chance to test it, myself included, the more a number of different issues and bugs have been cropping up. One of the biggest things people are reporting is, yeah, the range seems to be reduced even in highway mode. Now, it's definitely a balance, right, between good filtering and good performance. It's a balance to get both of those, right? Sometimes you sacrifice sensitivity for better performance, and one of the big questions has been, sacrifice sensitivity for better filtering. Now, one of the questions is, okay, well, is Escort actually have better filtering? Is it doing something sophisticated, or is it just kind of sacrificing performance and calling that filtering, you know? Well, a lot of people are actually reporting that the performance is down compared to what they saw before. They're getting less range in practice. Some people in Arizona, where they had the Redflex photo vans, photo radar, they're actually reporting that the Max360 with the firmware update is not actually alerting anymore at all. It used to with 1.5, but no longer with 1.6. And we're like, does this have something to do with sensitivity changes, or does it have to do with the fact that many times those radar guns operate at 23.9-ish, down below where most radar guns do? And it looks like the Max360 might be set up to scan only 24.050 to 250. I'm not totally sure that's the case, but it doesn't look like it scans lower anymore, and that might have been a change with this new firmware update. So that's kind of an issue that we're seeing as well. People are reporting that sometimes the display looks a little bit funky. People are seeing maybe delayed alerts or even alerts getting stuck on screen. There's a variety of different issues that are cropping up. But maybe coming back to the BSM filtering, which is one of the biggest things, as I mentioned in the initial video, yeah, it definitely looks like it's an improvement. It's not a total fix. It's still falsing to your Acuras and your GM vehicles, and I'm seeing the same thing as well, where it's, again, falsing to your Hondas, Acuras. I saw it false to a GMC the other day, to a Cadillac Escalade. One weird thing that I saw is, remember how I mentioned the firmware update's supposed to improve the lockouts and the BSM filtering? Well, I actually encountered a really weird conflict between the two the other day. I was pulled up behind an Acura in an area where I had a GPS lockout, and what happened is the detector kept rapidly switching back and forth between alerting to the Acura, it's a BSM false, and then muting itself for the GPS lockout, but it kept rapidly switching back and forth between the two alerts. This was getting really annoying. There was pretty much nothing I could do other than, well, quit being behind the Acura, or what I was considering doing was just actually unplugging the detector altogether. You know, you could sit and press the mute button, but it just kept re-triggering the alert because it kept switching back and forth. So that was a weird issue I've come across as well. So it seems like this new firmware update, it's not as smooth as we were hoping, and yes, while it's an improvement, it seems like it's also been introducing a number of different bugs. We've been learning a lot about it over the past couple days. Actually, I was talking to Escort this morning. They let me know that auto mode actually does reduce the sensitivity of the detector even when you're driving at speed, which would explain why in testing we're seeing performance drop quite a bit when running at highway mode, even if driving at highway speeds. We were under the impression that kind of the general consensus was auto mode reduces sensitivity at lower speeds, but then you get full sensitivity at highway speeds. It turns out that's not the case with the Max series detectors. That is true for the 9500iX, but it turns out that's not true for the Max series detectors. So if you want full performance on K-band, you have to actually run it in highway mode, not in auto mode, even when you're driving on the highway. So there's still a lot to be learned with this stuff. There's bugs that we're discovering the more we test it, right? The more we discuss things on the forums. Somebody on the forum, speaking which, is going to be sending me a Max360. I've got 1.6 loaded on my detector, and there's no way to roll back to 1.5. So he's actually sending me his 360, which hasn't been updated. So it's going to have 1.5. I'll test 1.6, and I'm just going to do some basic, simple comparison testing between the two detectors and kind of see what some of the differences are. Then when I finish, I'm going to ship it out to the Texas Countermeasure Testing Group. And hopefully, if they're able to get an internet connection out in the field when they're out testing, what I'm hoping that they're going to be able to do is, rather than test two different copies of detectors, and maybe one detector is more sensitive than another, what if we test just one copy of a detector first running 1.5, and then flash it in the field, and then test it running 1.6? That's going to let us know without any sort of differences from one copy of a detector to another, whether it's the firmware update itself that's causing some differences in performance and really how much. So there's a lot more testing and research and discussion that needs to be done, and there's a lot of things that we're finding out that we didn't really know initially, right? So maybe I should have waited a little bit longer to do kind of an initial impressions video because, well, we are discovering a lot that we didn't know initially. And in this case, there's a lot of issues that seem to be cropping up, and there's a lot of people who unfortunately are pretty unhappy with the new firmware update as well. And that's actually one of the reasons why after I did that video, and a lot of you guys were asking me, hey, with this new firmware update, should I get an R3 or should I get a Max360? And I haven't been taking the time to answer the question is because we really need to figure out exactly what's going on here with the Max360. And this new firmware update is definitely a little bit more complicated or involved or questionable, I guess. I don't know what the right word is, but there's more to it than we thought initially. And so again, there's more testing that needs to be done. And so definitely plan on answering that, of course, and discussing. I want to do a video just on that. I've actually done an article on my website kind of comparing the Max360 versus the Uniden R3, but that was actually based on the previous firmware version for the Max360, so that's going to need to be updated, of course. But if you guys are interested, I'll put a link in the video description to that comparison article. But once we get a better handle regarding the Max360 and all these weird little quirks that we're seeing and understanding better how it works and what the issues are, then I'll do an update video giving you guys kind of more concrete, detailed information about exactly what's going on, and then I'll resume doing the comparisons with how it compares to the Max360 and do like a best radar detectors of the year type video now that we're getting toward the end of the year. And I've got new dash cams. One just arrived a couple minutes ago. I've got 3 on my car, so I've got new radar detectors that showed up the other day. So I've got a ton of stuff that I want to work on. But as far as the Max360, there's definitely more testing and research and discovery and experimentation and discussion and all this kind of stuff that needs to be done because there is a lot more to it than we thought initially. So that's the latest regarding the Max360, and I think it's definitely important for you guys to know that. Yes, the BSM filtering seems to be very good, but now the question is, at what cost? Are new bugs introduced? Is performance compromised? To what extent? Etc. So there's a lot that we still have to find out. So anyway, that's the latest regarding the new Max360 and the new firmware update. So I guess one quick note for those of you guys who've been wondering, when you update the 360, yes, it does actually reset your factory default settings, so you do need to go in and reset all your settings. And another change that we're seeing is when you got the detector up on your windshield, if you have any of the bands turned off, like X band or even TSR, if you have that turned off, it will say bands have been modified. Didn't seem to do that before, but now if you had those things disabled, it will actually let you know when it starts up the detector. That's normal. Just a quick heads up, because a lot of you guys have been asking about that too. So anyway, that's the latest regarding the new Max360 firmware. A lot more to be tested, learned, discovered, blah, 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 all that stuff. So anyway, if you guys want more information, the best place for now, while we're all discussing all this stuff, hop onto the forums. There's tons of discussion lately. It's been one of the big talks the past couple days is the new Max360 firmware, and you'll find all you can eat regarding the new firmware update on the forum. So anyway, that's the latest, and just wanted to give you guys a quick heads up. So thanks so much for watching. See you guys in the next video. Happy driving.